Hello, all my wonderful friends. How are you? Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. It is so good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining me. So many people have already weighed in. Before I bring our guest on for tonight, I would just like to urge you to please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Please, please, please. If you're watching, please like the thumbs up. Please hit that thumbs up button. Really helps with the algorithm to get the podcast out so more people can watch the video. It really helps. So please try to remember to do that. If you go back and watch any other older episodes, again, please try to hit that up button. I really appreciate it. The audio is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hopefully this week I'll be a little bit quicker on that than I was last week, so I apologize. Also, lastly, thank you to Zach, our number one fan, Zach, who's always watching, and to his dad, Evie, who does all of my graphics for me. Appreciate you doing that as well. So we have a lot to talk about. I don't know how long this podcast is going to go tonight because I had, as you know, if you don't know, I had surgery on my shoulder 2.5 weeks ago. So it'll be 3 weeks in a couple days. And I had physical therapy for the first time, and I did really well. I'm actually ahead of where I should be, but yeah, I'm dying today. That's how it is with physical therapy. So I'm super, super, super in pain today. Well, no, it's really not that bad. I have a high tolerance for pain. It's just really sore and I can't really do it. So to even use the mouse, I have to use my other arm to lift my arm up and I have to bend my whole body forward. So I'm going to try to keep my big face out of the camera and do that. So, and no upcoming radio this week. It's all going to be closer to Christmas. Starting December 20th, I'm working every day to January 1st. Because when you don't have kids, you work the holidays. That's the way it goes. Because you don't have a family. What could you possibly have to do? You have nothing to live for. So, nothing this week that I know of, but TV on Monday for the Chris Salcedo show, and Newsmax has had me on like a country, different days here and there. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, enough about me. Let's bring on our guest. You know this guy. You've seen him before. This is Chris Tremoglie. Hello, Chris, and welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me again.
No problem. Thank you for having me. Sorry to hear about your physical ailments there. Hope everything gets well.
It could be so much worse. They just did a bunch of things in here, but where they reattached my bicep to the bone here in the front is like, it's very hurty today.
I had that the opposite. I had with a tricep to my bone I broke off. So
yeah, and it gets like that burning feeling, like that burning pain. Like it took a muscle too far. So, but again, could be worse. So, and I'm only taking Tylenol. So,
okay.
I'm trying to.
So never mind. I don't have sympathy for you anymore. So you're fine.
Why?
Only Tylenol. So.
Well, I was taking Percocets only the first week, and I only took one at night. That was it.
Okay.
But Percocets are terrible because they constipate you really, 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 really badly. Did anybody know this? I did not know this. And I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital. Seriously, like public service announcement, don't ever dare Satan's little pills. Don't take those things. They're terrible. I had no idea that happens. So I stopped taking those. Because like I said, I thought I was going to have to go to the emergency room. So I stopped taking those. So then I was taking Tylenol and Motrin, a combination. But I had to stop taking my Motrin because I'm getting my face microneedled, because you got to keep this going. So I'm getting my face microneedled. So you can't take anything for like a week or 10 days beforehand. That'll make you bleed,
Okay, so you got my sympathy again. So.
Well, I don't have to do the microneedling, but it kind of holds it all together. Men are allowed to just get old. Women are not allowed to do. What is it? Men get distinguished and women get old. That's the saying, the old saying. So unfortunately, I'm getting old. So let's see who's here. There's lots of comments for us, Chris. Oh, and I forgot to tell everyone, you can find Chris at the Washington Examiner, where he is an editor. He is also an opinion writer there, so you can find all of his writings there. And I've seen your writings elsewhere wandering around. You can find him on X at Chris W. Tremo, Tremo, because he had problems. I know you have problems with your X account, and Tremoglie is really hard to spell. So Chris W. Tremo, way to go to find Chris Tremoglie. It's probably the best way.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's see who's here. All right, Hermit Sal is here. Dan is here. who I think is also known as Yitzhak on X. And this is the problem. You guys have one name on here, then you have another name on X, and then some of you who are part of my Facebook group have another name in the Facebook group. So it's so hard to keep track of everybody. But somebody last week at the end of the show told me they were going to send me some names of people to contact in North Carolina, because I wanted, since today's Giving Tuesday, I wanted to have someone on from North Carolina and to talk about what's going on down there and how we can help, because I would love to donate something to North Carolina. I don't need anything for Christmas. I would love to donate, but I don't know who to donate to, because they really need like a trailer or housing of some kind. They need shelter. And I would love to donate to that, but I don't know who to donate to. So I had a guy who was going to come on last week when I was on WPHT in Philadelphia, and we called him and he never picked up. He missed the interview. And I'm like, dude, you're trying to raise money. Come on. But he missed the interview. So I just don't know who to have on. So whoever that was, could you please tell me who that was? So I can know where to look. I searched Facebook, I searched X, I searched LinkedIn. I could not find a message. So if I missed it, I'm so sorry. Just tell me where it is. Okay. Suze is here from PhD. Hello, Suze. Squeaky Ron and his cats. Ron does the music for me, that Mozart polka mashup type thing. He does that. Porch View is here. Star Driver is here. Bill says, the pardon might not go through Congress. That's what I heard a few minutes ago on the radio. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but the pardon doesn't have to go through Congress. That is a presidential thing that he has the right to do, and it doesn't have to go through Congress, right?
Correct.
That's what I thought. See, that's why you're here.
If that's not true, it would be news to me if that's not true. Let's put it that way. But from
I agree. And, given the news, even if we had someone from North Carolina on, I would have liked to have had someone who's a news person who can comment on the news, who knows what's going on, because this is such a big story. So I'm glad you're here with us. Thank you so much. Let's see. How many oxys for how many thumbs up? Let's see. Sal. Hey, Sal, regarding Mozart, waiting for Mary to use my version of Mozart's KV545. That's what I just used tonight, Ron. I think that's what I used. Let's see. Bring on Chris. He could talk about you. Oh, boy, Chris. Portree Farm. Oh, boy, Chris. Yay. Gregory, bring on Chris. Dan says prunes. I have to eat prunes. I'm never taking those pills from Satan ever again. Sal says, I suggest a shot of moonshine to help disease.
There you go.
Ease the discomfort. I wanted to take nothing into my body. I didn't want water. I want anything. It's terrible. Gregory wants to know if I'm taking Tylenol the size of my fist. No, 2 Tylenol every 6 hours. That's it. Prunes and chia seeds. I'm on a huge dose of iron. Porridge and chia and prunes. Ugh, that sounds terrible. Chris Christie is here. Yitzhak is here. As I said, I love this. Dan says, Yitzhak is my real Jew name, and Dan Seidel is my English name, the grandpa lawyer. Herman says, forget about the microneedling crap. Do not tamper with perfection. I've already done it, Sal. Thank you very much. Excuse me. You have to, oh God, that hurts. It hurts to cough. You have to do it one treatment for 3 months in a row, once a year. That's it. So, and actually, I saw results last time. It is literally, so if you don't know what microneedling is, and I don't know why I'm talking about this because Chris doesn't care, but it is, but if, like Chris, like the woman in your life will probably do this at some point in time. So it creates collagen, and it does a whole bunch of other things. So there's teeny tiny little needles, and they've got this thing that's about this big. They have different sizes for different parts of your face. So it's about 2 inches long, about like an inch wide, maybe. And it goes on your face. What?
This sounds delightful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they numb your whole face and your neck. They numb everything with this numbing cream for like an hour. And I can't imagine what it would be like without the numbing cream. But this thing, they put it on you. They have different sizes, and they have different frequencies of the infrared or the radio frequency or whatever it is. and it has tons and tons and tons of tiny little needles, and they go cha-chunk, and it goes in your face and out of your face. The needles go cha-chunk, in and out, and they are the temperature of the surface of Mercury.
Okay.
And the heat and this radio frequency, whatever the stuff is, it stimulates collagen and it helps get rid of tiny fine lines and things like that. Because it's not super invasive. It's not like a facelift. It's not like something where your whole face peels off and scabs or anything like that. So it'll be red, but it won't be terrible. So.
Of course, that didn't sound terrible at all. Like mercury, temperatures, and needles going into your face. Nothing, terrible about that.
Oh, I definitely have to take like a Valium and then I get a Percocet when I get there, and I have a squeezy ball.
Do they put like a piece of wood in your mouth to bite down?
Yeah. I bring my own leather strap. Try the CEO of Mr. Heater. He's donating a ton of buddy heaters. Yeah, I saw that. I want to get involved. Like hubby and I were talking about getting involved in donating towards a trailer for a family. They're also doing these heated tents in North Carolina, that can sleep like 6 people and stuff. But at least a camper has a toilet in it, and you can have water, like as opposed to a tent. I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. And the federal government's doing nothing for these people. We're sending millions more, like something like $700 million more to Ukraine, but zero to North Carolina. It's ridiculous. Greg Biffle or Matt McSwain? Matt is with Operation Hilo. Okay, so hold on. I have to write this down because none of the comments stay up on there. Stay up. Did you know that the comments disappear? Do you know anybody, Chris, that you're involved with?
North Carolina. I know a couple political people in there, but no, nothing. I could reach out to them, but I don't know anyone as far as like stuff.
Yeah, I Hilo and Greg Biffle. Yeah, and then I saw this one guy, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll donate to him because they're doing something. And then I saw somebody else fighting with him. Are you the guy who said you were doing this and you didn't do that? I'm like, oh. That's what I'm afraid of, is I'm going to donate money and, for something, and then it's never going to get to the people that I want it to get to. Okay. Dan wants to know, for Chris, how do you choose the topic for an editorial, the daily topic breaking at the time of writing?
Sometimes, a lot of times it just depends on if I see something and I want to write about it. But obviously, trending topics do play a factor into doing it, obviously, because that's how you kind of hear about news stories, right? So when that happens, that is not the ultimate deciding factor, but does play into it.
Yeah. Okay. It's got to be. How cool is it for you to be able to write about what you want to write about? Does that have to be news?
Well, not really. I mean, I've written about anything from like cultural issues, movies, news, like the stuff that's going on with Wicked, where they're kind of, ruining this great musical into making it a social justice piece of entertainment now with all the radical nonsense going on.
Wait. What's going on? Because I want to go. I saw the play on Broadway. I saw the play. I loved the play. I was like, oh, that looks like a fun movie to go see. So maybe I'll go see Wicked, because we have a little theater near us that Kevin Smith, the actor, owns, and so he runs.
Really?
Yeah.
Super jealous. I love the Kevin Smith movie. I mean, they're not obviously the most sophisticated works of things, but definitely a big Kevin Smith fan. That's pretty cool. I didn't know you were that close to
Well, this is the movie theater he went to as a kid, because he grew up right near here. And he bought this movie theater when it was going out of business. Family run. It's great. And when he first bought it, he only played his movies for 24 hours or for like a whole week. And that's all he did was play his movies over and over and over again. And I saw Reagan there. So you could see, I saw Reagan for $9 at this movie theater.
Wow.
That's I know, right?
Much when Reagan was president for a movie. So I
know. So, but yet then he also in the theater next door was playing Happy Gilmore. I'm like, who's going to pay to go see Happy Gilmore?
I think, what was it? That was like the 30th anniversary, I think, of Happy Gilmore.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I think I saw that on social media somewhere. Like Adam Sandler posted, it was like some kind of anniversary, 30th, 25th, something like that. So
what's going on with Wicked? Tell me.
Well, so there was the interview with the cast members, Ariana Grande, and
Mhm.
I forget the woman's name who plays Elphaba. And they were basically talking about how it's like a representative of a lot of LGBT stuff, and the characters in there are a little LGBT. And I don't recall off the top of everything because I don't have it verbatim, but they were basically trying to say, oh yeah, every these people in here are gay and homosexual and LGBT, and they live in this like wonderful LGBT. Oz is like this LGBT paradise, and I know the woman who plays the Wicked Witch in Elphaba, she came out and said, oh, it's something like it's important for me to be a what do they call it
An ally.
that, but it was something. I think she was like LGBT herself, and she came out and she was saying, "Oh, I'm representative of it." And it was just like no one's going to Wicked for the sexual orientation of the characters, let alone the actors who portray the characters. I'm pretty sure when the movie, was written initially about the Wizard of Oz and all those stories, was like the early 20th century, and the author didn't care about any sexual orientation or gender identity back then. So this is just a new neo nonsense or neo radical version of it, trying to basically take something that existed that is popular and trying to taint it with all this like LGBT stuff. And here's my dog, by the way, who I said wants to desperately come up and hit everyone
Aw,
in
he's
the world.
so cute.
So he's desperate to come on your show. Big fan as well. So tame him, but he's kind of winning here. So
We don't mind. That's okay. Put him on your lap. That's fine.
well, yeah. So that's the stuff that's going on there. Basically, I saw Wicked at Philadelphia Academy of Music probably a long time ago, several years ago, and I always thought it was a great play, and wasn't even aware of the prequel parts of the Wizard of Oz. When I saw it, I was like, oh, this is pretty good, entertaining. And then when the movie coming out, I was like, oh, Ariana Grande, kind of a good cast for it, so pretty good. And I was, was interested in seeing it, but then they started doing all this stuff and tainting it with all these like political messaging. It's like you just didn't learn from the election. You didn't learn from Budweiser. You didn't learn from Target that America doesn't want that. Like they're okay if you want to be, for the most part, if you want to be your LGBT, that's do your own thing. You don't have to like constantly bring it up when it doesn't really belong
Right.
in places to bring it up. Like I said, no one's going to Wicked because they think it's part of Pride Month. They want to go see the story and their entertainment in the musical. So it's that's just kind of basically you can't do DEI Wicked without spelling you can't have spell Wicked without DEI, so to speak. And so that they're kind of going to make that at least in the couple interviews that I saw. So that's what I'm working on. But that was just disappointing to see all that.
Well, I noticed in England they have a warning that comes on before you see the movie that says that they bully or they make fun of green-skinned people. Yeah. I'm like, who's offended by that? Like, tell me the green-skinned people who've lodged the complaint and talking animals, cruelty to talking animals or something like that.
Yeah, that not only who thinks that or who's worried about it, but who's the executive that approved it? Right? This is a valid concern. We must warn people for that. Like, they've gone so fanatical in all of this that they just removed common sense from their life. Because I think they genuinely believe this is how the world is, probably because it harbors some of their own biases that they kind of have trouble processing. But like you said, I mean, green people, like, come on now. Like, what is... It's just the more you read, you don't know whether to laugh, cry, or weep. It's kind of everything that's going on.
Ridiculous. So. All right, Squeak Ron says the mini homes in North Carolina don't meet code, but tents are okay. Yeah. So the Amish came and built all these mini homes for them, but they don't meet code. The Amish build great structures. They may not be, they may not have electricity in them, so they don't have outlets every so many inches or feet or whatever. But they won't let anyone live in them because they don't meet code. All I can say is I hope that when Trump comes into office, that one of the first things he does is straighten out what's happening in North Carolina. Yeah. It's horrific what is happening with those people.
And get rid of the bureaucracy to allows that to happen.
Sue says, I believe I heard Biden was giving $1 billion to Africa when he was there today. It's disgraceful what's going on here. Yeah, he is just spreading the money around, spreading it to everybody. Everybody gets millions and billions of dollars. He's trying to bankrupt this country because he hates you. He hates you. Dan says, how did you move up to editorial guy? Who has to trust you, and how much are you staying within boundaries? Are there any?
Well, I started as a fellow and basically just went from my fellowship to a commentary writer and just stayed from there. And then, I mean, we have a style guide we have to follow. We have boundaries. So I have to adhere to those rules for sure. But, you know, for overall, as far as topic is concerned, I have a pretty good amount of freedom to choose and select what I want to write about.
That's cool. That's pretty cool. Having that freedom. Yeah, of course there's boundaries, right? You know, it's like when I go on a show, or you know, when you're on a radio show, you know the audience, you know whether it's a satellite or whether it's a terrestrial. There's things you can say on satellite that you can't say on terrestrial. And that even depends on which satellite channel. You can say more on a podcast than you can say on something else. So you kind of have to toe the corporate line to a certain extent, but it's nice to know that they give you some freedom and you can use your own judgment. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, they do a fantastic job there in allowing the writers to voice their opinions and on things, on everything. So I can't have zero complaints with that at all. I mean, I'm fortunate in that way to have a good company that does that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Chris says, I look fabulous. Well, thank you. I'll look even more fabulous once that's done. Herman Sal wants to know, Chris, have you ever been contacted by the feds suggesting what you should write or not write?
I've never had that happen to me at all. And I actually broke the Leah Thomas story, which at one point was like the hottest story in the world and was quite critical of the whole thing. So I have never had any people contact me as far as feds and try to censor me or say I can't do anything like that. So
very cool.
I had more aggression for my dog right now.
He wants to play. I could hear it. I just hear his feet and him. Gramble says, contact public affairs at Fort Bragg or Camp Lejeune. That's a good idea. Thank you. Let's see. Dan said she is the second Black woman to play Elphaba. Has an interesting twist. My husband loved the fact that they made the Black girl the green girl. He's like, I don't know. There's something about this that seems somewhat wrong to me. Okay. Elphaba is excellent, Dan says. Glinda is the evil one. Okay, so Sue says her comments were that Oz is basically queer. Queen was the word used a lot in that interview.
Yeah, that's what I saw. It's again like if everyone knows, obviously, Wicked comes from the Wizard of Oz, which has absolutely the original story that was written in the movies. Nothing to do with any of that. I mean, if anything, it's just supposed to be the imagination of someone that gets hit in the head during a tornado, and incorporates all her friends and relatives into Oz in some mythical variation and fictional variation. So I don't think Dorothy was worrying about the gender identity of people during a tornado in Kansas to appropriate and make sure there's enough representation of all the people in Oz during her storm. So her dream and her vision. So it's a sad reflection of where we are today in society, and that even has to be brought up. There's no one. If you're LGBT, that's fine. You want to go see Wicked, sure, but no one's like, oh well, we need one of the characters in here or the actors to fill in this box and this box to accommodate and attain a certain amount of representation and appropriate. It's annoying. I hate when they do that. They just can't leave things alone and just have it on entertainment value. And the other thing was, and if they wanted to do something like that, if they wanted to have, an Oz and all that stuff for a particular, then have enough guts and courage to write your own story and don't just try to capitalize on an existing product that's been around that's a favorite.
Right.
So they could reap the financial rewards from it and get people to attend and then try to brainwash them. Write your own story, right? Write a Wicked, character origin story and go from there. So I'm sorry.
Well, that's the thing, is that Hollywood's run out of ideas. They just repurpose things now. They don't do anything new or creative. Sal says maybe the question is, what was the gender of the tornado?
Yeah, there you go. So,
Portrait says, I read the books as a kid. These actors sound ignorant. So glad I know nothing about them. Yes, ignorance
yes,
is
stay,
bliss.
stay with the book. Yes, stay original source, and don't dive into 21st century, indoctrination.
Yeah, so I want to get to the this is the thing I love about this doing this format is that the audience, these guys are so great, like they make so many great comments and questions and things like that that I never know where it's going to go. One of the things I do want to get to though is the Hunter Biden pardon.
Mhm.
And according to Breitbart, according to two sources, the Biden White House conspired for months to mislead people, the public, about the Hunter Biden pardon. And they even say in the Times, in the New York Times, they have a story out that says how Biden changed his mind on pardoning Hunter Biden.
Right.
Time to end all of this. And in that story, it says 10 paragraphs down, Mr. Biden had been privately grappling with the decision to pardon his son since shortly after Hunter Biden was convicted on federal gun charges in June, according to several people familiar with his thinking, despite publicly vowing that he would not interfere with a judicial system that had found his son guilty. So he didn't change his mind. He never really made his mind up.
Oh, I bet you I would push back and say he made his mind up and he just decided. I mean, Biden tell a lie? Oh, pray tell. Like, are we seriously like shocked about that? Like, I am of the belief that he never had any intention of not pardoning Biden and just lied to people during the public so they wouldn't be able to use it against, initially the Biden campaign and then eventually, Harris and Democrats. But I mean, is literally anyone shocked that Biden decided to do this? Like, that's my thing. Everyone's outraged and mad, and I get that. But are we really shocked? Like, did anyone really expect Biden, the president of the United States with this pardon power, to honestly go through and say, yeah, I'm going to let my son go to jail? No, I was kind of taken aback that anyone believed it to begin with because I was like, "There's no way." I'm surprised he did it this early. I mean, I was expecting it probably
Yeah.
like maybe January 12th, January 13th, January 14th, or maybe even the day of. But I guess he just is at the point where he's like, whatever. I'm not run. I'm not. I'm done my political career. I got nothing to lose. What do I care? So,
I mean, he's basically Kamala Harris. I don't know where she is. I haven't seen her
Hawaii,
since
right?
that videotape, like that horrific video, right? Like that horrible video just before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, where everybody's like, she's hitting the boxed wine in Hawaii pretty hard. So we haven't seen her. Joe, is off in Africa somewhere. Donald Trump was invited. He's the one who's going to France,
Mhm.
to Paris, to the reopening of Notre Dame. So
Yeah.
they basically, is it me or have they ceded the presidency to Donald Trump? Like they're just giving it to him early. It seems like he's the only one doing anything. Who's running the country? No one's doing it. It just goes to show we don't need most of our government. We don't even really need a president. We don't
Yeah.
need a vice president, that's for darn sure. But
Yeah.
is it they've
Just giving
ceded it to
millions
Donald
to
Trump.
a military aid to Ukraine. That's all Biden's doing at this point. It seems.
Well, he gives the military aid to Ukraine, buys more of Zelensky's silence. Zelensky then kicks it back, right? And it gets
Right. Yeah.
laundered back through, right back into
Yeah.
their pockets. So here's what I thought. I thought that he would probably wait until Hunter was sentenced and then commute his sentence.
Uh,
Because he never said I wouldn't commute his sentence. He said I won't
yeah.
pardon him. So I thought he was going to commute the sentence. I think Kamala Harris losing the election was the linchpin. I think if she had won, he would have just commuted the sentence.
Uh,
But because she lost, this was his way of pardoning himself. I fully expect down the road, you're going to see his brother get pardoned, his wife will be pardoned, the
oh, sure.
whole Biden crime family is going to get blanket pardons. And isn't it interesting that it's retroactive for exactly 11 years?
Yeah.
Why
That
11
was
years? Why
that
not
was like
10? What is that about?
that was like definitely that's probably I think what people should be more outraged to begin with. I mean, for him to pardon his son is to be expected. I mean, and being objectively looking at it, I would honestly say that probably if anyone, regardless of who the president was, regardless of the political party, had that opportunity, was in that situation, you're like your political career is over, you're riding off with the sunset. You're done your presidency. You have this power. They would probably have done the same thing. So I'm not, and not to mention, given the repeated history of, given the history of Biden's repeatedly lying and not telling the truth and misleading and manipulating, so none of this is a surprise at all. It actually seems to me more surprising that people are outraged at this than they actually expected to come. But as you were saying before, that it covers such a long period of time, just if that doesn't scream all red flags of like, what is this going on here? Like, they spent all this time with Russia, Russia, Russia for Trump, and then yet Biden is going out saying, yeah, for the last decade plus, we're not going to worry about this or kind of get part in anything that could possibly be discovered here. That's telling in so many ways, and especially with his links to Ukraine. I mean, that just seems all kinds of red flags and smoke coming from that.
Do you know it is a more sweeping and extensive pardon than Richard Nixon's pardon. He was only pardoned for when he was president. Hunter Biden's pardoned for a decade and a year for anything he might have done. So if we find out that some of the things on the laptop that look like pictures of underage girls with him, right? If we find out that those are indeed underage girls, that's a crime, but it's a federal crime. So it's okay, Hunter. Or if they were transported to state lines, federal crime, that's okay, Hunter. The Americans, I guess they figure that once he's pardoned, no one's going to investigate that. I think they should. I think we should investigate. I think we should find out the crimes that were committed so that you really can lay out there. Let's get to the truth, even though he's not going to pay for it. I think still.
Do you think it would make any difference? Like, so obviously there's a discovery of a crime that he did. Republicans would be up in arms and want to, kind of go along partisan lines, and people, Democrats wouldn't probably care. I would say maybe a small fraction of Democrats would care, because there does actually seem to be more Democrats upset at Biden and outraged that he did this than I actually thought there were going to be. I thought they were just like whatever. But for that, so I would say that overall, the outrage wouldn't really kind of matter as far as like voting. It would just, you could kind of portray it as, look, this is what Biden did, and maybe somehow tie it to other, Democrats. But overall, I just don't think it would matter among Democrats by and large that they would really care. And he said Republicans would be outraged and dislike it. Democrats, for the most part, wouldn't really care. And then we kind of have all this stuff and this money and this investigation that we'd be at the same spot as far as public sentiment before the investigation than we were after it. So, but
it's not about public sentiment. It's about finding out the truth.
True.
To me, I think we deserve the truth. The American people need to know the truth, and part of that truth, to me anyway, is finding out. Okay, do you really think there won't be outrage if we find out that Hunter Biden did have young underage prostitutes in his? I think that's a big deal. To me, the narrative changed when you start talking about sex trafficking children, if that is true, right?
Oh, absolutely. And then
so let's find out.
And then the next day that would be reported, they would be finding an investigation into Trump somehow, or there would be a connection magically.
Maybe.
The very next day, just to distract from it. That's
maybe
the sad, state of affairs we have.
I just think there was so much fertile ground there with the Bidens, with China, with Russia, with Ukraine, with Romania, with Uzbekistan. There is so much fertile ground with them, and it really is a crime syndicate. I think the Biden crime family, as Trump calls them, I think that there's so much there that it would be, you just flood the zone. It would be overwhelming, I think.
That I would love to see more in, not necessarily Biden, because I think we all kind of realize he's a sleaze. And given this protection that he's been given, it kind of signifies that there's a lot that he did that hasn't even been uncovered yet. But more so, what Biden has done through his political career to go from the humble, senator from Delaware to this multi-million-dollar affluent politician that they've gone into all this and made all this money. That's what I would love to see. Yeah,
it also helps put his legacy into perspective, which I think is gonna, if Joe is still alive, is something that will hurt him more than anything. Let's get to lots of questions. Let's get to the viewers. Gregory says the cadaver pardoned his son. Who would have thunk? Dan says we all knew he was going to pardon Hunter. It's biblical. Absalom, my son, my son. Porchview. Anyone who didn't know Hunter was getting pardoned is in denial. Biden was always going to pardon his family from day one 4 years ago. Dan, the Biden crime family made their bucks. They're done. Pardons for the whole farm and himself. He's going the full Monty before he dies. Star Driver, Biden pardoned Hunter after he said he wouldn't, but remember, Joe doesn't remember what he had for breakfast 2 hours earlier. You know what, though? I'm beginning to wonder if part of that is I'm trying to, excuse me, I'm trying to figure out if maybe part of that's an act. Could it be kind of like, you remember that gangster, Vinny the Chin? Vinny the Chin Chingazi, who used to walk around Brooklyn in the bathrobe because he had the feds believing he was crazy and he had lost his mind because he didn't want to stand trial. Remember that guy, Vinny the Chin?
Yeah.
So maybe Biden, this whole thing is an act that he really isn't as dumb as he seems, and he knew he was going to do this all along.
What was that movie that did that? The Usual Suspects with Kaiser Soze, right? When the guy was like,
I didn't see it.
It was a great '90s movie, but it was like this kind of thing where it was Kevin Spacey. Turned out in the beginning, his character is like this handicapped person. He's like this very docile, timid, and then it turns out at the end he's like the mastermind behind everything, and he walks with like a limp and like kind of a deformity, and then at the end he just switches. So I would actually I'm sure there's definitely valid, issues with Biden's health, but could it be that he plays it up sometimes to his advantage,
Maybe.
like this docile, sweet old man when he needs to sniff his next child? Sure, I could see where that's like, something that he does to manipulate, because that's Biden in general is deception. He's the guy who says one day he went to black churches every day after his Catholic mass in school, and then the next day was raised in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, and then the next day was raised among Eastern Europeans,
right.
And then the next day he was close with his Italian back. So it's just that's who Biden is. So absolutely, that wouldn't be shocked if there's some kind of like performative thing there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Gregory says Biden should be excommunicated, let alone not invited to Notre Dame. I don't even think he doesn't know he was. Sal, the pardon goes back to 2014. This suggests to me that there's a lot to cover up and somehow protect the Biden family. 2014, I believe, was when Biden did the quid pro Joe, right? When he said he told Ukraine, wasn't that 2014? When he told them to fire that prosecutor that was investigating Burisma? I think that was 2014. Jerry says there was never any doubt he was going to pardon Hunter, but the broad, sweeping, unconditional pardon going back to Burisma days effectively is pardoned the big guy. That's the part that's so egregious. Exactly.
Yeah.
He pardoned himself. Now, but here's the thing that people are forgetting. This is only for federal crimes. So if there are some state crimes, now they purposely allowed the Delaware tax crimes to expire. So Delaware can't go after him because if he were Donald Trump, they'd find a way to make the statute of limitations not exist anymore. But so they can't go after him there. But there may be other crimes if he committed crimes in New York State with prostitutes or underage hookers or something. They may be able to go after him in that state. But he's only absolved of federal crimes that he may have committed. It's mind-boggling to me. So if a body turns up somewhere and Hunter Biden's connected to the body.
All right, between 2014 and 2024, no harm, no foul. So
sorry, not my bad. But that's the first thing. The second thing is if they do investigate, and I don't know if the Republicans have the cojones to actually investigate. I don't know if they'll actually really do it. They may just say, oh, well, who cares? Who wants to know? It's over and done with. Can't do anything about it. And we move on. I want to know the truth. But if they do investigate, they can call Hunter Biden as a witness. And if he does not show, he can be arrested. And he cannot plead the fifth, because you can only plead the fifth. It's your right to not incriminate yourself. He's been pardoned. He can't incriminate himself. So he can't plead the fifth. So even if they do an investigation at a federal level, he's been pardoned for all those federal crimes. He has to talk. And if he lies, that's perjury. Not that a Democrat ever goes to jail for perjury.
I was going to say, but Bill Clinton says perjury doesn't really, it's a crime for you and me, but not if you're a Democrat, presidential candidate or family.
Exactly. Let's see. Oh, OmnicastNet, that's new. Hey, welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here. Now Tax USA, and I know I'm not getting to all these, but we're really behind on the comments. I'm so sorry. Now Tax says there is only one last mistake Biden can make is to resign and give the presidency to Kamala. These Democrats are backcraft crazy. Where is she? I don't even know where she is.
There was actually talk about that. A former Harris advisor proposed that on like a CNN show that Biden could step down and make Harris the first woman president, and he should do that. And I'm just like, these are the people that for years we're talking about threats to democracy and our the why we have all these precious democratic institutions and our rule of law. And as soon as they get the chance, they do everything they can to subvert all that and get rid of all those things that they were talking about because they want to do things that fit their political agenda and align with their values and their powers. And rules and laws be damned if it means when it comes to that. It was all just performative, pearl clutching, hyperbolic hysteria to fearmonger and scare and emotionally rile a base to think doomsday was coming when they were the very people that were implementing the doom.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But they don't care about that because their followers, the people who so believe in this, they're cheering Joe Biden doing this. But then if Trump turns around and does, and I have a piece from Politico, I actually have a piece from Politico where Politico is saying that Joe Biden opened the floodgates and he's made a huge mistake here. And so I'll get to that in just a second. Scott says he might as well pardon Hunter back to birth just in case, if something comes up later on, how those secret indictment committees can be. Porchview says Senator Coons' daughter was underage on the video on the laptop. I didn't know that. But Senator Coons clearly doesn't care. Dan says the question is, does the pardon cover state crimes as well? It does not. The pardon authority says nothing on that. No, it's federal crimes only. He only has the power to pardon for federal crimes.
And what would it be? Delaware state crime investigating? And the democratic institution of the first state of Delaware is going to really put into any effort. I can't see,
Well, he spent time
in senators and the governor. I don't think,
Right. And California and New York probably aren't going to go after him as well. But those options are there.
In a just world, it would happen for sure.
Yeah. Herman says Hunter was not responsible for his behavior because he was addicted to Parmesan cheese. Remember that when he was sniffing the Parmesan cheese off the rug? Omnicast Net says presidential pardon doesn't work on state charges, but Hunter wasn't facing any state charges as far as we know. Exactly. Sure Essential says maybe there are so many Democrats outraged because they're jealous. Once Kash Patel gets in, they're going to be wishing they had gotten pardons too. Hermit says, Dan, I heard that a state crime is different than a federal crime, different jurisdictions. Yes, exactly. Dan, Vinny the Chin Chingante. Well done on him. Yeah, he played it well. That was great. Tax says this is the best money laundering scheme in history. It makes the mafia look like amateurs. Star Driver Seizure Doggo. Hello, Doggo. What's your doggo's name?
Kitt. Okay, so anyone of your audience here ever watched the TV show Knight Rider? That was my favorite show growing up. So Kitt is named after Kitt the car.
Oh, wow. Well, golden retrievers are notoriously high energy. How old is Kitt?
He's 11. So
wow.
He's not really embraced the whole old man riding into the sunset, enjoying the retirement years. He's like ready to go all the time. And it's quite energetic.
Well, just Jerry said, please introduce us to your dog. Can you pick him up and put him on your lap so we can see him?
Come here. Right, now he won't come over. Come here. Look. Okay, hold on. Here's Kitt.
Oh.
So Kitt, meet everybody. Everybody meet Kitt. So.
Oh my gosh, he's so cute.
And so I got him, and so talking about TV shows, I got him actually from Craigslist. 11 years ago. He was 1 year old, and it was a family that lived in Newtown, Bucks County, where I think it was something where the mom, the wife was allergic to him or something kind of like that, and he had the dog. The owner had to get rid of him, so I wound up getting him from there. But on the pictures, he kind of looked like Old Yeller a little bit, So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, And I was like, one of my, sad movie, but one of my favorite movies growing up as well. So I saw that, and his name initially was Buddy, but I thought that was kind of lame, so I changed it to Kitt. So, but yeah, so here,
he's adorable. He's really adorable.
That's Kitt, everyone. So thank you for your patience as he's been eagerly awaiting to come on to the show tonight as well.
Well, I told Chris, he was like, "Oh, my dog may cause a problem." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. They've seen my cats walk across the keyboard with me going, no." And I told Chris, when I was down in DC and I was working from home during COVID, I originally did my podcast in our dining room, which is right off the kitchen. And right behind me, there is like a banquette, like a low antique banquette. And unbeknownst to me, I'm talking on the air, and over my left shoulder is Oliver, one of our cats, sitting there with one leg up in the air, licking his butt, right? Sitting right behind me, and I had no idea. And then when I went back to watch the video, I was like, oh no, I had no clue he was there licking his butt on DC TV. So let's see. Okay. A star says, I'm waiting for Trump's DOJ 5 a.m. warrant raids. Yeah. I think this time around, let me ask you, I think this time around, Trump is going to give as good as he got. I think he's
I hope
mad.
so.
I think he has every right to be mad. I think he knows everybody wants to see it. He should force them to live by the same rules that they forced him to live by.
Oh, I absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree. I hope he doesn't go soft. There was the thing that, remember the whole in 2016, the whole lock her up with Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Then as soon as he got in there, he said he was going to show her mercy. Which, not that I really particularly had a desire to see Hillary Clinton, locked up. I mean, I think there could be an argument could be made there. But the fact that he went so soft so quickly, I was like, you're setting yourself up for retribution. And then they kind of tried to do that all with the the impeachment stuff and the weaponized justice system and everything else. So hopefully he's a little more firm and doesn't listen to the advisor he had the first time and actually does this thing to kind of like drain the swamp. So we'll see, to be determined, but I do have hope he actually does that.
Yeah. Well, he only has 2 years. That's it. He's got 2 years. Let's make someone for whom no one has voted president of the United States, Joe Biden. Yeah. I mean, Kamala Harris. Yeah. Squeaky says he can plead the fifth pending on state charges, though there may be parallel federal stuff. Yes, he can plead the fifth on state, but not on anything federal. Dan says, wasn't Kitt John Adams in 1776?
He was, yes. And also Mr. Feeney in Boy Meets World.
Wait. The voice of Kitt also played John Adams in the movie 1776, which is one of my favorite movies ever.
Yep. And like I said, in Boy Meets World, he was principal and the teacher, Mr. Feeney. So.
Wow. I had.
Really? There you go. Bet you didn't know you were going to learn about this tonight on the podcast. You went from 100th Pardon to Mr. Feeney. Think about that.
Suze lives near Kitt's hometown. She lives in near Newtown.
Oh, nice.
Right where Kitt came from.
Yes.
So okay, let me share this little bit because we're going to get out of here soon of Politico. And here's what they say. Joe Biden, and I'm not reading the full sentences, but Joe Biden handed President-elect Donald Trump a template to shield his own allies and stretch the pardon power even further. Trump now has fresh precedent and political cover to issue expansive pardons, absolving his allies not only of specific offenses, but even any undetermined crimes they may have committed. Up until this point, except for the Nixon pardon, it was always for a specific crime, a specified crime. They would always pardon for a specified crime, not for like anything you might have done, just whatever. They say with this, and they talk about Richard Nixon. Let's see. The terms are so unusual, and the process leading to it was so secretive that the Justice Department's Office of the Pardon Attorney. There's an Office of the Pardon Attorney. Does Doge know about that? Do we need an Office of the Pardon Attorney? Right. It happens once every 4 years. I don't know if we need that. They typically advise the president on clemency issues, but even they were taken by surprise, according to a person who was granted anonymity to disclose details. In the final days of Trump's first term, Matt Gaetz requested a similar sweeping pardon, and Trump told him no.
Oh, well, we see there who has the integrity and who doesn't, but.
Well, I think Trump's going to go in there with a blowtorch. I hope he does. Trump granted clemency to Michael Flynn and Roger Stone and Paul Manafort and somebody else, but a pardon to them. But it was for specific crimes of which they had been convicted of. Now, one thing I'm seeing a lot of is during the 24 campaign, Trump promised to pardon the January 6ers. Maybe it's time for a blanket pardon. If Biden can do it, why can't he?
Oh, yeah, I think that's definitely going to happen. And as far as like a political move, I think there's a parallel a lot of experts made there, and I think they'd have no leg to stand on objecting to it now after everything that happened. So I think that was going to happen anyway. But I mean, now it kind of just gave Trump some energy and fuel to do it without anyone like morally outraged and say you could just kind of like flip it back to them and say, hey, I'm just following precedent here.
That's right, exactly. Pardon the January 6 prisoners, indict the January 6 committee. Yeah, they destroyed evidence. The January 6 committee needs to be investigated. Now, do all the January 6 prisoners need to be pardoned? I don't think so. I think there are some who absolutely were violent, who attacked police officers. And even if they were feds, that's the other thing I want to know. I want to know who were feds, who weren't. We need to know how many feds were in the crowd because the feds won't tell us. We need to know those things. But there are some who absolutely still haven't even had a day in court, and it's almost 4 years later. They're being kept in solitary confinement. One guy has been moved 17 times. So for his family to see him, they have to travel every time. Kept in solitary confinement. Some of them are stripped naked and kept naked, and they're not given, they have like a light bulb in their cell that's on all the time. It's really horrible conditions, and I think people need to be punished for that. And those people, I don't care what they did, they have been persecuted. They should not only be pardoned, they should get some kind of financial compensation for what they went through. Their lives have been ruined, and that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong.
Especially with the discrepancy between the January 6th riots and all the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots that occurred, years before, for over a year, that people view January 6th as like so much worse than what was happening during the Black Lives Matter riots. And I'm just like, where's your outrage? Like, I'm all for, saying it's illegal for people to storm the Capitol and we have to have rules. And obviously you don't want that to happen. I completely would sign off, and I think most normal people would. But when you kind of like get so outraged and say, oh, this is an insurrection, but then see, years and months of streets throughout the country burning and, police precincts trying to be burned down with police officers in it. And then you have, the company, that bail fund that Harris was kind of advertising,
right?
That was literally raising money to get criminals out of jail. It's like, where's your moral barometer here? Like, why is one so much worse than the other? You should be equally outraged, and they're not, and that's the main issue, and that's a problem. And it just shows that, again, this is the whole plural clutching, performative stuff that's just been so accustomed with people on the left.
Absolutely. Now, Dan says, during the 60s, the Fed false flag Gestapo were called COINTELPRO. I never heard that before. Have you heard that before?
I have not, no.
Now, Tax USA says, so much for the 14th Amendment. Yeah, depends on whether you're a D or an R. Star Driver says, correct on the compensation, and I don't want to hear one Democrat say there's no money. We spent $465 billion taking care of illegals. Amen and hallelujah.
Absolutely.
Ron says, remember, Joe knows where all the bodies are hidden. Yes, he does. J6 was a complete setup, agent provocateurs. It was so obvious, according to Dan. Star Driver says, squeaky Joe doesn't know where he is. I don't know. Like I said, part of me thinks that he may not be as dumb as we think he is. Let's see. All right, so here's Politico again. Joe Biden deviated from past practices by invoking fairness rather than acceptance of responsibility as the criteria for pardoning his son.
Fairness?
Remember he said that Hunter was being unfairly prosecuted, right?
I would.
It was a political persecution, but it was his DOJ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right. No, and weren't they telling us for 4 years that there was no such, that the DOJ wasn't politically persecuting Donald Trump?
Right. Yeah.
But yet now he's telling us that they're politically persecuting his son.
and you
So
can't
all of a
question
sudden they're
the
not fair
actions.
anymore?
You can't question the actions of our institutions because that's treason.
Right.
You know? But no,
Right.
that you could even, it's like subliminally put into the political writing where they said, fairness, because Joe Biden all of a sudden now, remember, he never claimed it was unfair or injustice, for up until a few days ago. And he's proudly touted the fact to the public that he wasn't going to do anything because it was like, everything was done fairly until, he has like 50 days left in his political career. So when political talks about that as saying, oh, he put fairness ahead of, no, I mean, he didn't put fairness. He put privilege. He put maybe a father's compassion. I will go with that. Obviously, you don't want to see your son in jail if you have the ability to do that. So I will see that, but definitely not fairness. I mean, fairness is,
But
Hunter Biden being held accountable for his crimes.
But what he used the guise of the process, the system not being fair, and that was his justification for the pardon. That what Politico is saying is that this opens that up now for Trump to use that as well. And Trump has been saying all along that the system's not fair.
Right? Yeah, that's funny.
So he just justified what Trump has been saying all along. And now it no longer is culpability. It's no longer saying, I'm sorry, I take responsibility for what I did wrong when you're pardoning someone. Now it's like, well, it wasn't fair to begin with. So I, as the president, don't think that conviction was fair or just. So you're sticking a knife in the judiciary. Right?
If we think about it, then putting it that way, Biden just basically said Hunter was part of a witch hunt. So basically,
exactly.
He's stealing Trump's verbiage there and everything. That's funny. It took 4 years, but Biden finally agreed with Trump on the justice system.
Yeah, exactly. And the language they used, according to Politico, tracks with the language that was used in the Nixon pardon. Almost exactly covered, quote, all offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part of, and then they changed the dates. So they used a lot of the same language.
So Biden's plagiarizing again. So
that's good. Before Joe Biden settled on the broad pardon, there was debate in the West Wing about whether the president should grant a far more limited form of clemency, according to a Democrat who was in contact with the White House, and Politico gave them an anonymity. Some senior officials believe Joe should merely commute the sentences that Hunter was set to receive. White House spokesperson Andrew Bates, though, said disputed that there was an internal debate. Now, to your point, Andy Kim, who is Senate-elect here from New Jersey, please. He said, as a father, I sympathize for his family's situation. But as you know, as an American, as a working person here in these types of jobs, I'm very disappointed. I don't think it was the right decision to make. I think it just feeds into so much of what I find is challenging at this moment when it comes to the people I'm talking to that are so distrusting of politics. Gary Peters, Democrat out of Michigan. This was an improper use of power. It erodes trust in our government and it emboldens others to bend justice to suit their interests. So now they're saying that a lot of people wanting a blanket pardon of January 6 defendants. Jim Trusty, who used to work for Trump, said that a pardon of Carlos de Oliveira and Walt Nauta, the two Trump aides who are charged with in the obstruction case. So the charges were dropped against Trump, but not against those two. Jack Smith is still going after them. That they should get a total pardon as well. Can I just say one thing about it's, I understand it because it's his son. Everybody's like, well, I understand it. He loves his son. Da, 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 da. My parents would never do something like that. They wouldn't do that. How much parenting has changed in one generation is insane to me. My parents always told us when we were kids, as we got older and we started doing stupid stuff and we had the ability to drive to do stupid stuff, my parents always said to us, if you make an adult decision, you will suffer the adult consequences. And that's it. And we were always told, do not use your one phone call to call this house because we will not pick you up. You will spend at least a day and a night in jail before we come to pick you up. And when you get home, you're going to want to go back to jail. And we knew they were serious. There is no way on God's green earth my father, if he were president and I was his daughter and I did what a Hunter Biden got to keep, my father would do. He'd go, no, you got to learn your lesson. I firmly believe Hunter Biden is the way he is because Joe Biden has protected him every step of the way. And Hunter has never suffered consequences for his actions. He has been bailed out every step of the way. Hunter is the poster child for a kid who needs tough love. And here's Joe Biden doing it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he is, in my humble opinion, he is going to love Hunter right into an early grave because of his addiction. And because he's going to cross the wrong person, the path of the wrong person when his dad's no longer president and he can't be protected anymore. And Hunter is going to wind up in the wrong end of a situation. So there is all these people are saying, oh, my father, he loves his kid. He's loving his child into a lifelong addiction. He's loving his child into a life of crime. He's loving his child into no consequences for his behavior whatsoever. Joe Biden loves his son so much that he doesn't even acknowledge his youngest grandchild.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, but that's not loving your son. I'm sorry. A good father will let your kid accept the consequences for their actions so that they don't do it again. So all these people are like, I would do that for my kid. My parents always told us, like, if there's a picture of you on the front page of the newspaper doing something stupid and they're looking for you, I'm turning you in.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. He's definitely basically enabled a lot of Hunter Biden's, lifestyle and illegal activities just by, you're right, not holding him accountable. And I think an excellent point had to do with his the daughter that he kind of just ignores. And how many free passes he's supposed to get in life? You're right. It seems like he lives a life of privilege, has never grown up. And, it would be one thing if maybe he was in his 20s and doing stuff like this, living this life of privilege. He's a grown man. He's an adult. Not that I would excuse any of that if he's 20s, but, he's had decades of living in this privilege and this entitlement and this wealth of, life of affluence. And he's never held for accountability for anything for doing wrong. And you're right. I mean, he should be. Again, I just didn't. Going from the part where I saw when he was like his family and his father's, I just never, ever presumed he was actually going to stand by that. Even when he came out and said all that, I was like, this is all nonsense. He's lying. I mean, he's lying straight to your face. There's no chance of this happening. And, turns out I was right. And I think most people believe that as well. It was all kind of just, he was just saying that for cover for the election. And, that was it.
Yeah. All right. Where are we? There's some questions here for you. Manglemush finally made it. Yay. Omnicast says unfairly prosecuted, huh? Trump, Stone, Giuliani. There you go. Obstructing Congress charges were removed apparently from January 6th. Scott Wagner, absolutely right. Omnicast love the cutting and pasting of Gerald Ford's pardon verbiage. Dan Seidel says that's the piece for Chris tomorrow. Biden and Trump agree on things.
That's a good idea, actually.
There you go. Write that down. Star Driver says, remember, Joe said Hunter beat addiction, yet we all watched him on the White House balcony sniffing something off of his hand and then rubbing his nose. And we still don't know, again, we don't even know whose cocaine that was, really? Really? We have no idea whose cocaine that was in the White House in the cubby. Come on. Our secret, but if they put a red hat on that bag of cocaine, they would have, they would know exactly whose it was. And that person would have been raided at 5 a.m., handcuffed, paraded in front of their relatives and put in jail.
The dangers of MAGA Republicans, too.
Exactly. Omni Castnet says, can't just commute sentences. He still wants to keep his guns. He won't be able to do that if the conviction stands. That's true. Gregory has a question for you. What's Christopher working on now for the Washington Examiner?
A couple of pieces on Biden's the pardon and the whole wicked thing we were covering earlier. The corruption of our popular culture to left-wing, social justice continues to fall. So yeah,
the wicked things. The conversation about wicked. That's why you know so much about it.
Yes, there. I also like it, but when it was just hard to see because I'm like, it's like here we go again. This you learned nothing from before. Is that last election people just rejected this whole stuff, and you're going to come back and double down. So
No, you're right. They learned that. But Wicked was made before Trump won the election.
oh yeah, what was what
Yeah.
2000s, maybe even 90s. I'm not sure when,
You,
but I think I saw it mid 2000s, and I was out a while back because what was it? Indina Menzel was the original one,
yes,
and Chris
yes. And
Chenoweth.
also Christine Chenoweth, right?
Chenoweth,
Didn't
yeah.
she also
So
was in it as well? Yeah, two
that was
incredibly talented
I
women. Wow.
think late 90s, early 2000s is when it initially came out, and kind of like was this
Yeah.
phenomenon. So
But the movie that was just made where they're,
right.
clearly where they're bringing more woke things into it was before Trump won the election. I think it's going to take a lot for Hollywood to really learn the
Oh,
lesson.
absolutely.
Did you see the interview with Jane Fonda and Bill Maher?
Yeah.
And
Briefly, I missed the whole thing.
she had no clue. And he said to her, "Well, I suspect that you surround yourself with news outlets that who have no interest in telling you about what's really happening on the
Yeah.
left, right?"
Oh, I'm sure she
She
watches.
was
Gets
so
her news
ignorant.
from
It was
yeah,
crazy.
MSNBC, The View, The Daily Show. That's pretty much where she gets her news from.
Well, they're supposedly redoing The View. I don't know. They're going to
Yeah.
try to put some new people on The View, but I just think they need like two conservatives, three. They can have three liberals, but they need two conservatives because when
Like
it's 4-on-1, they gang up on that one poor woman.
yeah, and right now that one really isn't a big conservative. Alyssa Farah Griffin. I don't find her
No.
just slightly to the right of Trotsky. As far as, so I don't think she's really a good representative of the true conservative, and definitely not of the MAGA conservative. When I think, what did they have there? It was originally, I think it was Elizabeth Hasselbeck, right? Going years ago. She was
Yes, way back when. Yeah,
the
yeah,
original one, and
yeah.
then what was Candace Bure? I think was on there too after her.
Oh, Candace.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
she was
the
from
Full
what was that?
House.
The Full House, right?
Yeah,
She was from Full House.
and then I think it was Meghan McCain after that. Who again?
Right.
You're getting like further and further left to your right wing, tokens.
Well, after Meghan McCain, they brought in Anna Navarro, and I was like,
Yeah,
"What?"
I mean, come on. She's to the left of Trotsky, let alone as your Republican. So
But
she was another one who came out and applauded the decision to Biden to pardon. She was so concerned about justice and the threats to democracy, except when it aligns with your ideological values.
But to be fair, for people who also believe that if there's a man sitting next to you with a beard and he's 6'4" and weighs 350 pounds, that you really have to call him Denise because he's really a chick, and they actually buy into all of that. So you can kind of see where they would think that Ana Navarro, because she calls herself a Republican, really is a Republican.
Yeah.
That works. So yeah, let's see. So Hermit Sal says to question the institutions in the Biden administration is more than treasonous anarchy. Just ask most Democrats. Sue says Hunter needs tough love. Mangle says Joe Biden never had consequences for his actions either. It's very true.
Yeah. That's probably included. I would also argue to say why the pardon lasted for 10 years, because I would have to imagine there's something Biden did during that time linked with Hunter. Remember, Biden came out during the campaign and said he never had any conversations with his son about business. That was the thing. And the Trump, they kind of jumped on that. And then, a year or so later, it was kind of like he had all these conversations. So, when is that? There's something there that, it goes beyond the father's compassion to his son. It also goes to a father's conscience to protect his own hide, I think. So,
of course. I mean, does anybody not think that Hunter's the bag man for the Biden crime family? Of course he is. I saw. Oh gosh, I wish I remember where I saw this. Probably in the bowels of X. That apparently over Thanksgiving. Now I don't know if any of this is true. So take this with a huge shovelful of salt, okay? That Hunter told his father that if he doesn't pardon him, he is writing a book exposing everything. Did you see that?
I saw that. So yeah, again, who knows if that's true? But the one, if that was the case, that pretty much even goes to show how badly Biden's enabling has done to his son to have the audacity to threaten that. But yeah, again, that would have been something else. Again, who knows if that's true? But if that were true, that just goes to show how horrible a human being Hunter Biden is to threaten that.
Right.
Everything that Biden has probably given his son Hunter through his life to come out and say something like, "Yeah, you're still not responsible for your actions as a fully grown middle-aged man, and yet you still need him." So
Scott says, even if you're facing 25 years, they should come and get their kid from jail. Listen, if I did something I was facing 25 years for, my parents would, of course, help me. But I got to tell you, they would say, look, if you did it, you got to pay the piper. It's the way it is. So, because you know what? My parents, the Catholic guilt, my parents would always, right? The Catholic guilt. My parents would say, well, if someone had done that, like if I stole somebody's car and wrecked their car, my parents would be like, well, if someone had stolen your car and wrecked it, how would you feel?
Yeah.
You'd want that. Or they would make me like pay it back. I'd have to go to the person's house every Saturday for like the next 10 years to work for free in their yard or something, So, like I said, my parents always told us you'll want to go back to prison when we're done with you. Star says the cocaine was Kamala's. Look at her eyes. Scott says, this is a good one. How many people have a kid looking at 25 years and the parent can just with the whisk of a pen get them out of it? True. And it's not right. It's not right. There are people sitting in jail right now for tax evasion. You know what? The other thing that gets me, Hunter didn't pay his fair share that the left's all up in arms about. Yeah. And neither did Ashley, by the way. She's another one who had tax issues and didn't pay her fair share. And the left, it's okay. It's fine. They don't care. They don't want to talk about that. It's totally fine. Scott says, Ford pardoned Nixon because he said it would be better for the nation, so that we didn't have the conscience of him being in jail and convicted or whatever. I got a lot of questions about the whole Watergate thing anyway. I don't know if that was all as what it seemed either. The View needs an enema. Yes, it does. Scott has a question for you, but it's in Kentucky. With a country music star creating an illegal housing development against state laws, a local zoning committee. Yeah, that sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah. Rules for thee, but not for me.
Of course. Biden needs to be impeached just so we can take away Hunter's Secret Service detail. Well, I think Hunter loses his Secret Service detail, right?
I believe so.
We're paying $15 million a year for Dr. Fauci to have a Secret Service detail and chauffeurs to drive him around, which is insane. So, all right, we're out of here. Thank you so much, everybody. Chris, thank you so much. You can find him on X, Chris W. Tremo, Tremo. Follow him. Check him out, Washington Examiner. You can find all of his ponderings there. So please go do that. The only good thing about the Bidens, they are anti-income tax. Dan Seidel says, thank you. Thank you, guys. Please give a thumbs up to the podcast. If you're watching on Getter or on YouTube, you can do that. Don't forget, you can get the audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for so many of the past podcasts, including past podcasts with Chris. This is like your third or fourth one, right?
I believe fourth.
Yeah. I was going to have since you've been on so many times, I'm having an ad block made with your picture, and my friend who does it couldn't get it done in time. So he's free, so I can't complain. Mangle says, my folks would give me money to buy provisions, but I would get no pardon. If I did, I must own it. Yeah, my parents might give me money for the commissary, but that's about as far as it would go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will see you Monday on the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax TV, sometime between 4 and 5 o'clock. And then we'll be back here for the podcast. And I'll try to get someone on from North Carolina. And Chris, if you come up with any names for that, let me know.
Yeah.
All right.
Email. We'll do.
All right. Great. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Take care.